Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the I'm Such a Pisces podcast. I think it's time for some true, relatable, shoot the shit content, and I'm ready for it.
Yeah. It's Pisces season, and so we're just like a mixed bag. Like last week's stoner scopes, I don't
Yes,
know if we ever figured out it was just like a mixed bag.
it's just a
It's
little of everything.
just like Pisces.
So yeah, we're going on our tangents today. We've got some interesting questions. We've got some interesting research. Yeah, we've got some stuff.
Just all the random things that have come up. So, okay, the first thing I wanted to ask, this is just, again, some of my high thoughts
Mm-hmm.
and
We love a high thought.
just high ponderings. So I wanted to know, do you think that certain signs like an indica dominant strain versus a sativa dominant strain better? Do you think it's like a sign energy thing that could be at work? What do you think?
I 100% I think yes. Although I do think some people's like the entirety of their chart probably has a big
Yes.
influence because I am a Pisces and I normally would, if I had to guess, I would think that Pisces would be like a very indica dominant sign. They just want to chill. But at the same time, I personally like a more sativa dominant. So I don't know if that is, maybe it's because like I think Pisces as a sign is just an indica, like Pisces is an indica. Like if
Yeah.
yeah, it takes nothing for me to lay in the couch already. So if I'm going to smoke something, I don't need more of that because I'm already ready to do it at any second. Like, you know what I'm saying? But then I think of like, okay, like a Virgo, a Capricorn, maybe even a Sag, probably all like a nice upper, like a get shit done kind of vibe.
Yes, because
Yeah.
at least Capricorn and Virgo don't want to lose the ability to get shit done.
Exactly. Literally never. Literally
So,
never.
I can't work? Oh, no, that's not going to work for me. I need something I can work on.
That not working is not going to work for
right.
me.
That's like,
Yeah.
no. You want me to just be lazy? No. That's
Not gonna happen. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that there is an energy one way or the other?
So, okay. I'll explain. So I thought about this because we've talked about kind of off mic. One of my friends that I smoke with enjoys backwoods, right? And so we smoke backwoods together. And it's such a different smoke. I'm a joint girl, like my little organic hemp papers.
Yes.
So it's a very clean, just the plants. Kind of smoke. And so smoking tobacco paper is different. Even like smoking backwoods for me, I feel like in smoking like a blunt, or whatever your brand of choice as far as
a
those
White
kind of that
Owl,
kind of
Swisher,
tobacco.
whatever your preference
Just
is.
still a little bit of a different smoke. So like I feel like when we smoke the backwoods, I feel much more of a heady high.
Yeah.
And it's like so much that I can't smoke as much because it's like so much up in my head.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I wonder if this is just like, because, of course, my friend is an Aquarius, so air sign, so I'm like, I wonder if this is just, it's like a sign energy thing.
This
like
shit where you're all up in your own head. Like,
and I'm like, oh, that's a lot for me. I like to be in my body,
Yes. Yes. I like to be in my body as well, but occasionally it's like, you have to get the right balance, right? Because if you're too in your head, if I'm too in my head, then it's like, oh, I'm anxious. I have to sit down. Like, but then if I'm too in my body, I sit down and I don't get up.
And you
like,
don't get up.
It's hard. Something right in the middle of both is
balance.
Ideal. Yeah.
Yes. We're all trying to find that balance strain for us.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the right balance. Yeah.
But then I know. So my best friend took she's Taurus, but she also has that Virgo moon, and so she'll smoke an indica and still get shit done. And I'm like, how? Like, she'll smoke an entire fucking blunt, a whole J or whatever, and then she'll just be like, all right, I'm gonna do a project. And I'm like,
yes.
I cannot. I can't. Like, yeah. So maybe that's
I feel like that. And maybe that's more of my Taurus energy. It's like, I will smoke and I will have all the energy in the world. I'm out in here dancing, getting stuff done. We working on things, you know, getting productive. Like that's how I function.
Right. It's helpful.
But a sativa will have me like it'll just, I'm just too, like it's not a body paralyzed, but it's like a mind and like, what is going on? Like, you know, I'm just too much in my head and I kind of feel a little dizzy. So I'm like, let me just sit down for a minute.
Now, that's interesting because I think, again, I do like a sativa because I do think it helps me get things done. But I sometimes, I think it's like some people self-medicate because they have like ADHD and so they smoke and then it helps them get things done. Not to say that I don't think you have ADHD. I'm just, I know some people feel that way.
I do think I have ADHD.
That's fair. So,
I do think I have it.
I really don't think that I have it, but sometimes if I smoke a sativa that's too heady, I do too many things that, like, I find myself walking around the house, like, I have the laundry basket in my hand, and then I'm like, I see something in the living room, and then I just drop it, and I'm like, oh, I gotta do this real quick. And I just, like, whatever I see right in front of me is the thing that I'm doing, and then, like, 20 minutes later, I'll be like, oh, shit, I forgot this is here. Yeah. And that only happens to me when I'm like really off of a very heady sativa. So maybe something to be said for that. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, okay. Listeners, watchers, weigh in. Let us know your thoughts because I'm very curious about it. Because, I'm like, I'm very functional. Now, there are some, you know, you can get a real heavy dominant like indica, right?
Totally.
You know, that, you know, put anybody down, you know. Even the workhorses of us, right?
Yes.
But like, so it's like, you know, I think there, you know, obviously all of these things, there are levels and different strains affect people differently and our body chemistries and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. You know, I'm like, I wonder if he just like, you know, enjoys more of that feeling. Is that maybe that's an air energy? And then, you know, I thought about you and I know that, you know, you like a sativa dominant. And so I'm like, you know, she's got that Gemini and that Aquarius going on too. So I'm like,
yeah,
I wonder if there's something to that.
Interesting. It's a good question to ask.
When I smoke.
I'm going to have to start doing some more research, especially now that I live in a place where I can like have access to, I can just buy weed wherever. Although I can't really smoke right this particular minute, but it just kind of depends.
You're better than me because I just continued.
Well, I did last night and it hurts. And now I'm like, okay, I gotta lay off of this.
Just gotta put it down for a minute.
So
it's like me, the tea and the joint.
Yes, I've got the throat coat tea. Yeah. But this is helping my mind feel better.
What's that, girl? I will be like with the bottle of honey, like turning it up.
Look,
just squirting it down.
Next time I squirting it right down your throat.
But I do it. I literally do. It's my own personal bottle of honey. Okay. I don't share it with everyone.
No, you're allowed to do that. I might have to go try that on our next break, honestly.
I mean, honey is it's the one, you know. So it's like, look, let's skip the other stuff. Just squirt the honey down.
Look.
Throat coat.
Throat coat. Throat coat. All right. So what other questions we have on the relatable content this week?
Okay, so on a whole nother topic, right? So I saw this article. It's probably actually a couple weeks ago now, and I just had saved it because I'm like, this is just interesting. So the article, like the headline was like, Gen Z is like ditching their 9-to-5 jobs, right? They're just like, oh, this is too much. Like this 40-hour work week, these 9-to-5 jobs. I don't have time to have a life.
Yeah.
That's the complaints. And I'm like,
that's fair. I get it.
Welcome.
Right. That's what we all been doing this whole time. Here. Yeah.
We kept trying to tell y'all, don't grow up too fast because this is trash over here. I tried to tell you. But now you're here and you see for yourself it's trash. But so there was a TikTok video, I guess, of there's a girl and she was, you know, just kind of crying about like literally how she doesn't have time to do anything. Like she doesn't have time to see her friends and, you know, live a life. Like she's like, I barely have time to go to the gym. Like by the time I get off work, and I guess you live in New York because it was talking about the transit getting home
commute,
or whatnot.
Yeah.
And so by the time she gets home, I mean, it's like dinner and bed.
That's it.
Like,
that's
you know,
it. That's really all you have time for. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. So I think I've heard this commentary before with this whole the Gen Z, and like, you know, with the 40-hour work week. And, you know, we talked, this is 9 to 5, and we're talking about the 40, you know, it's all kind of tied together. But, you know, I'm like, yes, come through. Like, let's keep this conversation going. I think, you know, I believe the children are the future. I know Gen Z are not children.
Right. They're all adults at this point. Yeah. Almost. Yeah.
That are adults now. But, you know, hey, the youth are the people that move these movements through, right? Like, if anybody can get this done for us, it's Gen Z. Like, I'm putting my faith in Gen Z. Like, let's change this shit up. We don't want to work 40 hours. We don't want to work 9 to 5.
Right.
Let's move it on down. Why are we working so much? Look, who is it benefiting?
But then it's benefiting the boomers who are all now who have been doing that the whole time, who've been torturing everybody and complaining about how young people don't want to work. And then it's benefiting them. It's on our backs now at this point.
Okay.
But I also think we as millennials have to just be like, look, I'm not doing this shit anymore. Like, they're right. Like,
we have to back them.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. You know, like, look, now we couldn't make it happen for ourselves, but let's back the Gen Z people. Like, back these people up. Like, we want to benefit too. I don't.
Right. Because I think there's so many people in our generation who are kind of in this in-between stage who are like, okay, yes, I have the 40-hour work week. I have the whatever, and I'm working really hard. And then they see people come in and they're like, I almost am like, I see how boomers got to where they were because nobody was changing shit at that point in time. Everyone was just working their asses off in these like terrible conditions. And so then when you see someone come through and just be like, nah, I'm not doing that shit. You're like, well, I had to do it. And even sometimes I know the conversation around like paying back student loans and stuff. Because I'm in the process, like I'm paying my student loans and I realized that there's all these people like younger than me who literally said, nah, I'm not doing that shit. And they literally just didn't. And I'm like, am I a sucker? Am I a sucker? Because I've been paying my shit. Like, what am I doing?
I've been responsible and doing what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. I'm just going to get off free. Like.
Exactly. But it's also like, look, if my shit never gets canceled and I have to pay it off, but then the person underneath me, like, does get their shit taken care of, I'm like, okay, great. That's great. I'm so glad that the people that come after me that like, hopefully my future children will not have to do this shit the way that I did.
Yes.
But like, it's hard to maintain that attitude if you feel that. I think there's some sort of innate human sense of like fairness that people really struggle with. And they're like, well, I had to do it, so you have to do it too. It's like, nah, that's the fucked up mindset that keeps us in these places.
It's the generational curse. It's like, it's that piece that, you know, says that exactly what you're saying. Like, okay, well, I had to go through it, so you have to go through it. But also we say we want things to be better for our kids.
Right.
So like, what do we want?
Which is it?
Which is it? Do you want it to be better, which means it's going to maybe be easier in some ways for them?
Yes.
We want that, right?
Yeah.
We want them to have an easier way to succeed so that they can make things better for all of us. Hello? Hopefully that's the way it works.
This is, okay, I know I'm kind of like, again, we're off on a tangent, but this is literally like so much of what I do for work now is talk to teachers and parents, and a big part of it is like talking about the ways that we raise kids now, because they see like gentle parenting being a thing, and the amount of people who are like, well, I got hit as a kid, or I got beat, or I got spanked, or whatever, and I'm like, okay, yeah, did you enjoy that? And they're like, no, but I learned something, so I'm gonna do it too. I'm like, why are you holding on to this so hard? Because clearly my thing is always like, you're like, I got hit and I turned out okay, but I'm just like, did you really? Because you're over here advocating to hit children, and I'm like, I mean, I get it. Like, I know some shit is bad sometimes, and that like it makes sense, but like there are other things. Like, there's other things. I don't know.
There are other things we can try. That whole conversation is. It's hot right now, and I understand. And I'm like, look, I've been on literally been on both sides of that conversation because I've been the person. I don't know that I'm the person that I was the person advocating. Well, no, at one point I probably was. I was advocating, you know, because I'm like, look, I mean, because I was like, look, I'm all right now, but I wasn't getting beat, you know, but because I knew some kids that was getting beat. Yeah, I knew some kids that were, you know,
that it was serious,
the kind of punishment that they were getting. I was like, well, I think that's kind of borderline, you know, but who's to say where the line is when that's the standard, right? It's like, where is the line? And we have to have those conversations, but those conversations also weren't really being had. So, you know, I think, you know, as we progress, right, and we learn, that's the hope.
Learn better, do
different
better
ways, right? You know, and I think it's hard for people to break some of that kind of violence, and especially, you know, I speak, you know, within my own community, you know, that was, you know, that's something that was institutionalized. If you take it back to slavery, 100%. Right? Like, hello, like that's how we learned, right? Through punishment, through violence. That's not what we want to pass down to the future. Like, we don't. That's not what we want to do.
I think, you know, you can't ignore all of that stuff too. You can't just go in and be like, look, you can't do that anymore. Like, you have to acknowledge all the reasons that we arrived here in the first place. But at the same time, it's like, I think it's the same of like, you want to learn more and you want to do better for the generations that come after you. And I think just keeping that in the forefront is like, yeah, of course, like they shouldn't have to deal with what you dealt with because it's different now. And
right. Yeah. And even, I mean, taking it back to work conditions, we think about, you know, the generation before us, you know, our boomer generation before that, you know, those, again, very different times, you know, post-war, like all kind of things were happening in those time periods where people were going to work in that way, and why everyone had to work, you know, like why women went to work and all that kind of stuff. Like there was a reason behind all of that, but we're not in those conditions anymore. So why are we still operating as if we are?
Why are we still operating like one person's income can like feed an entire family? Because that's straight up not what the deal is anymore. Like, two people can be working full time and still struggling like a motherfucker.
like a motherfucker.
Yeah. and especially in like, I'm thinking about like, I had a friend for a long time who both of her parents, like one of them worked at the grocery store and one of them was like worked for UPS, and that they had like a good solid middle class income. They like sent her to private school. Like there's a whole thing. That's not how the world works anymore. Like you literally cannot. You can have two parents making 6 figures and still be struggling somehow. Like it's crazy. It's crazy out here.
Crazy.
Depending on how much their parents paid to go to school and like where you live and
where you live. Yeah. Absolutely. It's insane. And imagine just for, you know, the people aren't even in that space, you know. I'm like, I mean, okay. Takes it to the conversation about having children, right?
Yeah.
People talk about the younger generation, our generation, people not having kids as early as our previous generations. Like, how can you afford it? I'm still asking. How could I afford to have a child?
I'm 32.
I don't know how some of my friends do it. I truly do not.
I'm 3 years away from having a geriatric pregnancy, and I'm still like, I cannot afford this. I literally cannot afford this. I don't own a home. I don't, you know, I'm like, what? Yeah, I'm just paid my car off. Like,
yeah, like so many people are in a very similar position. I think part of that is what drives women to, you know, freeze their eggs. Because I'm like, well, I'm not ready yet, but I do want to be a parent. But I'm, you know, I'm not in a position to afford taking care of a child, because I think part of what has happened is we've gotten very realistic about what those costs are. And we see people struggling all the time.
Yep.
Like, yeah, no, I don't think I'm not going to choose that for myself or my child.
Right.
Like, if I can help it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't want to bring a child into this world to suffer more. Like, obviously that's part of life, but you know, if I know it's straight up going to be a bad situation, I'm not doing it.
I'm still struggling. If I can get it together in time, maybe.
Sure.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's a hard maybe. But, there are other reasons, personally, my other reasons that maybe I don't necessarily want to be a parent. But,
yeah.
But money is definitely a strong first.
It's up there, for sure.
The top. But yeah, so that was just something I saw, Gen Z, hopefully, they're going to push through for us and make some changes to the system so we don't have to work all the time anymore,
Yes. We love to see it.
Not really get paid anything, working. Not
right.
What's really going on?
I do have to shout out really quick because I'm very lucky. I have a 32-hour work week at work, and it is beautiful. It's yeah.
There are places they're doing it. We're having these new policies. You've got the unlimited
like PTO.
And we've seen how those things are very positive, and most people don't abuse them,
right?
Because who got time? We
gotta
get the work done.
That's kind of where I'm at. I don't have unlimited PTO, but I do have a lot because a lot of times I don't have to take off on a Friday if I don't want to take a little weekend trip or whatever.
Yeah.
And I will put up with some bullshit because I have this space in my week. Really, it's good for the company because I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I really don't want to do this shit right now. And I'm like, you know what? I'll put up with it because I know that I've got a 3-day weekend coming up. Like, I'll be fine. I can recoup.
Right.
Not to say, really, nobody should have to deal with a lot of bullshit at work, but it's part of the job. I'm a social worker. Like,
yeah,
it's just going to be part of it. Like, yeah.
We're just in that kind of field. There's a lot of bullshit.
Exactly.
But, yeah. So there are places that are making some changes. So there are positive strides being made.
Yeah.
But we've got a long way to go as a whole.
Long way.
Long way to go.
Yes.
So yeah. All right. So now this is our last little random section.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to play us a little clip from Jordan the Stallion.
Especially with married couples. And did you actually know research suggests that psychologically speaking, humans will pick a side of the bed due to attitude towards work, personality, and income. I will tell you exactly what it said in regards to research. Research suggests that people who sleep on the left side of the bed psychologically have a more positive outlook on life. They can deal with heavy workloads. They're not easily fazed by stressful days, and they're calmer in a crisis than their counterpart, and they're more confident. People who sleep on the right side of the bed earn more money, have a less positive outlook on life, but are more prepared for worst-case scenarios than their counterparts. And also, people who are claustrophobic naturally choose to sleep near the wall.
Okay, so what side of the bed do you sleep on? I just thought this was very interesting, just like an interesting random thing that came into my timeline about.
I'm fascinated by this because Christine and I just had a brief conversation about this off mic, and I realized that now, about half the time I'm sleeping alone in my own bed, and then half the time I'm staying at my boyfriend's house. And typically when I sleep alone, it's a queen size bed, but I'm usually sleeping more to the right side, which is closer to the wall. And then same thing when I'm at my boyfriend's house, I sleep on the right side. But I realized that when I was married before, I slept on the opposite side. I slept on the left side. And it just
interesting.
I never even thought about it. That was just kind of like the switch and how it just happened naturally. But it's also a very different kind of relationship. So it's like, oh, is that how did that happen and why? So interesting.
Yeah. Do you associate with those traits, like the right side traits at this point, I guess?
I think a little bit more than I used to, for sure. I think before, when I was sleeping on the left side, I was definitely the more I would have thought of myself as more prepared for an emergency, kind of of between the two, kind of, calm and collected in an emergency and that sort of thing. But now I'm it's that dynamic has switched a little bit. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I was thinking about it. I'm like, so currently, I sleep alone. So it is interesting that while I kind of sleep in the middle of the bed, I also sleep diagonally. And so my head kind of sleeps, like my head is kind of to the right, but my feet are kind of to the left. But in my last relationship, I slept on the right side. Now, I will say, what I do tend to find is I'd like to sleep on the side closer to the windows. So if there's a window, and it usually, however, I don't know, it's happened this way. Usually the bed is not backed to the window. Now, for me, that's a personal choice, but in other people's spaces, I don't know. There are things about it, but I don't like the bed back to the window or the light behind me. I like to see the light come in.
Yes.
But I'm also not a blackout shade person. I'm like,
me neither.
Let the light in.
Yes.
Like,
let me wake up naturally.
As soon as it comes up.
Same.
Yes.
Same.
Like,
yes.
So, I want to see it. So I usually sleep on the side toward the windows. But it has been on the right. But I told Shelby right before we came on, the person I dated right before my ex, I slept on the left. And I'm like, now I do think in that particular relationship, kind of similarly, I was the person who was, I almost feel like I was the more serious of the two.
Yeah. Which is so funny to me now, like in hindsight.
And I thought really what was interesting about it was, and maybe this is similar, the other person in that relationship was a Virgo. And, I'm like, and, to my Pisces. So I'm like, am I the more serious of the two?
Yeah.
It's just kind of strange,
that is also interesting to think about because both of the people that I've been in a relationship with are Tauruses, Taurians, but presenting very differently. Like one has Pisces rising, has a Libra moon. So like we have a lot of similarities in that way in the big three. And the other one was Sag rising, Aries moon. So like very different vibes. Very different vibes. So
yes.
I don't know. It's just really interesting
the water
to see how
fire
it
versus the water or the earth. I'm sorry, the earth fire and then the earth water,
air. Water, air. Yeah.
Air, water.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting dynamics for sure.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this conversation up for sure.
Yeah. It's just been, so I was trying to, I'm trying to like zoom all the way back. I'm trying to travel back into these past relationships. Like, what side did I sleep on the bed with this person?
Right.
Like,
right. Something to continue to think about for sure.
So that'll be probably one of our, polls, we'll do what side of the bed you sleep on.
What side of the bed do you sleep on? And what's your sign?
Let us know. Like, see, and then, maybe we'll do the strain thing, and we might not make that a public poll. I don't know. Right. We'll do it in some way. Yeah. Get on YouTube and let us know what you like to smoke. And what your sign is.
Yes.
Okay, so to the main event for the
main event. Content. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this.
So we talked about this a few weeks ago. I, let people know, like, hey, there's this show on. I think we should watch it. It looks real messy. It's called Couple to Throuple. And
it is just as messy as you might expect.
It is messy boots, and we love it. We have both watched it, and we're gonna talk a little bit about it. Yes. So for anyone who doesn't know, Couple to Throuple is on Peacock. It's on Peacock. So if you want to check it out, it's your Peacock subscription.
Yes,
they're fairly inexpensive.
Yeah.
But a fun show. It's a new kind of dating show. If you want a little new twist, if you want to get into, some poly lifestyle content, this is for you.
So yeah, I have so many thoughts. So the first thing that comes to mind is, so I'm sitting at dinner the other night with my friend Violet and her girlfriend Elise, and they have both previously, like, I think right now they're both monogamish, but both of them have been poly. When they started dating each other, they were poly. I think it's just like, I'm Not 100% sure how that dynamic is for them right this second, but I know they both have experience being poly. And they both, like,
Yes.
I was telling them about the show, and they both kind of went, and so we talked about it a little bit, and then I talked with my other friend who also was watching it, and some of the couples, she was like, this seems like less like poly, because the percentage of people who are poly that are actually in a throuple is pretty
Right.
small. Like, most of the
Yeah.
time when you're poly, that just means that you have the
You're-
freedom to date
yes.
around and date other
Yes.
people, and then you have your primary partner, but you're not all like sharing a bed together.
Right.
And so
Yes.
I think both the people who I know who have experience with polyamory, and then my other friend who just happened to be watching it, were kind of like, this feels like a little bit I'm trying to think of the word, but like condensed down version, like, this is not the whole spread
you already
of
know.
polyamory.
Yeah. Yes. So you know,
it's
this
for
is
TV.
sensationalized. Yeah. So it's like, we have to do this in the way that is going to bring, you know, the most kind of drama, right? Because just introducing people to the poly lifestyle where they can have this separate thing going on that the other person doesn't have to see.
Right.
Is a whole different situation, right?
Than having it right in front of you.
Easier,
yeah.
Right. I don't want to necessarily have to watch you kissing and rubbing all up on this other person.
Right. Right.
I know it's happening, but to see it is a whole
right in front of me.
thing.
And then we're both doing it, and then we're like, we're sharing this partner.
Right.
Like,
that's a whole different kind of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a very specific, like, the whole throuple thing. I think the first time I really saw, like, well, maybe not the first time, but like the first time I saw it kind of TV wise is the L Word, the new class, whatever they whatever the new version is called.
The new version of the L Word, which I have not watched, but I know people love. I say people, lesbians love the L Word.
We love the L Word. But so what's interesting is, okay, get into my own business.
No.
So when my ex and I were watching the L Word together, the new version, there's a couple that became a throuple on the show. Mm-hmm. It sparked a lot of conversation between the two of us, to the point where I had to discontinue watching the show with my ex, who was my partner at the time. It got a little intense because, we had some conversations about how I was open to polyamory. It was something I was interested in exploring. It wasn't something I knew that it was like, I know this is for me. It was just like, I would be interested in seeing what that would be
Pisces, like. Anything goes, okay? Right. If you're open to it, I can wrap my head around
once.
It. Sure. Maybe it won't work, but yeah.
I've certainly been in love with more than one person at the same time. So I'm like,
now we know that's true.
If we could just, make it work.
Yeah.
We could make it work. So now again, not that I was particularly interested in becoming a throuple, but it was an interesting concept, and to see it, on this show.
Yes.
And it was, and it wasn't always running smoothly on the show either.
Right. So, right. Exactly.
It was just a very interesting thing to see. And so when I saw this show, Couple to Throuple, come out, I was like, this sounds like some grade A mess, and I'm here for it.
Yep. And part of me,
I don't think these people have a clue what they get into.
Exactly. And I think I said that to you several times before. When I first started watching it, I looked and I was like, some of these people are not ready for this. Like again, having, I don't have a lot of personal experience with this, but I have a handful of friends. Honestly, the derby community is like, everybody's gay, everybody's poly, everybody's like, wow. So I feel like I just learned a lot by like talking to all my friends about it. And it's just, it requires so much conversation and so much expression of feelings, and you have to be in a really mature place to make this work well. Right.
Absolutely.
And even if you are in a really mature place and you're doing difficult. Your best, it's still going to be hard. And I think it's not that I would not be open to it, but I think for me, in the place that I am in my life right now, like, I don't have the time to dedicate to do it the right way. So I'm not trying to be out here half-assing polyamory. Like, I just don't, and I also know how I am maybe it's the Aquarius, Venus and Mars, where I'm just like, when I love somebody, it's pretty all consuming. Like I'm pretty like deep dive. And so like, I just think it would be really hard to balance that and not make someone feel excluded.
Also, part of that is very unconventional. So it's like, there might be an openness. Now, it could be like the right situation for you. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that's also Aquarius, like the right situation.
I'm not just looking to do it.
Unconventional. Right.
Yeah, just to do it. If it's the right person or whatever, then maybe. Yes.
So I definitely I agree. So we're getting into this. Would you pursue consensual non-monogamy? Which, I mean, in consensual non-monogamy, is still a fairly open, like there's different ways to do that, right? Like part of this whole polyamory conversation is it really is tailored to your relationship. Whatever you have agreed on, that's what y'all do. And so it's like, it's not a one size fits all, like this is how it happens or whatever. It's like, this is what we decided that work is going to work for us. Yeah. So in that space, would you pursue it yourself?
I mean, I think, again, I'm a Pisces. I'm open to anything. If it was something that the partner that I was with felt really passionate about, and honestly, it's something that I've had conversations about doing in past relationships. It just like it was one of those things where it was like, okay, we're either going to do this or we're going to break up. And that is not the fucking scenario where you want to start something like that. Like, it feels like an invitation for making the relationship harder. And I don't know, maybe for some people that is, something that has saved their relationship. But I'm thinking about, for the most part on the show, and we'll get into talking about them in a little bit, but like most of these couples seem pretty solid in each other. They're not on their last leg, like, oh, we're either going to or break up, right? Like, yeah. So I feel like open, but
okay. Yeah, I feel like that being the last resort doesn't feel like the right move in probably most situations. Just in my
almost like let's have a baby to save this relationship.
Right. Absolutely.
Which is also like, no. No. Yeah, your future generations are like, please, no. Oh my God. The trauma.
Don't bring me into this. How I get in it?
Now how am I in it?
Get it.
Yeah, exactly. So like, it's not that I'm not open to it, but it is, I think it would very much have to be the right situation in a lot of ways. Yes. You know what I mean?
Yes. I think I feel very similarly. Like I'm open to it in a situation. Yeah, like it would have to be the right people involved. Obviously, people who are, very open, who are, in touch with themselves, in tune with themselves, and can communicate. Yes. As I have seen very clearly in this show. Which we will talk about.
Yes.
The communication is key. Like if we talk about communication is key in relationship with two people.
Man.
How much more important is it when you add multiple other people?
Yeah. Whether it is as a throuple or as just like two people who have other partners. Like, yeah. And how do you, so I recently, and I won't I'm not going to share somebody else's business, but I have a friend who was dating someone, and it's kind of like they're moving towards this transition from making their primary partner, changing who's the primary partner in a relationship. Like it started off that this was the primary partner, and now they're kind of moving towards this other person as the primary partner. And
interesting.
The amount of communication that takes and the amount of work that it takes to go through it's a lot. It's a lot of communication. And what happens if you go in it with your current primary partner and then you both just kind of decide I don't want you to be the primary anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know. And how do you not feel jealous? And how do you not feel like you get hurt feelings? And it's well, if we never would have done this, would it be different? And I don't know. It's just a lot. There's a lot of dynamics there for sure.
There's
it's complicated.
a lot of layers. It is very complicated. And I think that's the part that, now I'll be honest. Okay. So, my last relationship was probably my most serious relationship I've been in with a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And post that, I'm like, I don't know that I want to have to do more. Like, I feel like being in a relationship with another woman, there's already increased communication.
Sure. Yeah. Just
and
by
sharing,
nature of
yes, and feelings.
Uh-huh.
And, I was like, this is bad. But
yeah.
I'm just going to deal with a man for a minute because it's a little more simple. It's a little, it's frustrating as fuck. But it's a little more simple in that space because I'm like, ooh, I need a rest. I need a rest.
Yeah. Sometimes you just don't want to have that many conversations about feelings, and maybe that's my own shit coming up. I know that we're two Pisces who are like, I'm gonna just dissociate for a little bit. I'll be back, because I obviously I was not in a relationship with a woman, but I also felt like, oh wow, man, we got to talk about every fucking thing, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I'm not talking about my feelings or expressing my feelings now, but just the manner in which it's happening feels very different. And so I totally feel you on like, I think I just need a little break from all of this. It's a lot. It's exhausting.
It's a lot. And I mein, in some ways it's so refreshing,
Mm-hmm.
but in, again, it does become a lot.
It's a lot.
I just need a little break. Mm-hmm. So I imagine, myself being in a relationship with multiple people.
Yeah.
And how much more that would be, especially if one of those people was another woman.
Yeah.
I'm just like, and I don't know that I could see, and this goes into my next kind of question, but as far as thruples, but I don't know that I would see myself being in a relationship with two men. I don't know. Like,
yeah.
I don't know how much they can really handle that.
Look, that is interesting to me, and that is what I wanted to see on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that I'm only on episode 5, so I haven't gotten that far yet.
It's not coming.
It doesn't happen. Okay, I didn't.
No.
Kima has things to say about it. Kima's like, yeah, have your boyfriends be boyfriends. It's beautiful.
My boyfriends. I mean, it sounds fun, but
it kind of does.
Like,
but at the same time,
the reality is like probably not as fun because men just.
And I think you'd have to be two very evolved men who were very emotionally intelligent to be able to do it.
And how you find two of them?
Where
two on a date?
Where are they?
So you're just trying to find one
that are not already dating each other,
and that are not already dating each other.
Come on, and that want a woman involved
and that want a woman involved.
Yeah,
there's so many things.
There's a lot going on there. Like you're really asking a lot of the male community, the cis male community. Yeah, I don't know that I do think that truly, if you found that dynamic, it would be kind of nice. But at the same time, I don't know. Yeah.
But it's like if you just found one man in this category, you might not feel that you needed another one.
Exactly. Like, yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Except for maybe like if you want variety. I don't know.
Well, like, depending on what your sexual preferences are, perhaps,
Yeah.
Maybe. I think one is plenty for me. I don't really need to have two. At the same time, especially.
I think it would be a problem to have two. I think they would be a problem more than I would be. They would be a problem.
Yeah. Hard to say. Yeah. You're probably right, though. Because I feel like, then there's the part of me, which is that I feel like what continues to happen on the show is that it's like, okay, it's a man and a woman who are coupled up, who are basically straight passing in every other way. And then they're like, let's bring in a third, but it's always a woman.
It's always a woman.
And it's, that's great. But then it's just like, it kind of plays into this thing that I do have a problem with, which is just this like every male fantasy of exoticizing bisexual women of like, ooh, they're making out. Ooh, it's so hot. It's like, yes, that is like, I'm into it, but at the same time, it's like, I don't want to be into it for your benefit. Like, I don't want to do this for a male gaze.
Right.
But I also do want you to be enjoying yourself if we're all going to be here together.
Yes.
It's so complicated.
there's a lot to it. And so I had a lot of very similar thoughts because, you know, of course, before I watched it, I'm like, you know, I saw some clips, and what I liked about what I saw of the clips is that I saw people from the queer community. I'm like, okay.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got something going. All right.
Yes. It's not just a bunch of straight couples being
Right.
like, let's
Because
add a third.
let's have a third. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Because what's new about that? You know,
Nothing,
like
really.
we have all kinds of stuff going on, like threesomes. Like, okay. Female, male. Okay.
Okay, great.
All right.
Yeah.
Great.
Mhm.
But what is new? That's been everyone, you know, every man's face for all time.
Right.
But I saw some different things, and I was like, okay, this might be something different going on with this. So I turned it on. So yeah, I do think that there are, a few couples that are kind of in that same space.
Mm-hmm.
So let's introduce our couple.
Let's get into it. Yeah.
Let's get into it. Okay. So we have Ashmal and Rahman, who are
They're
a gay
couple.
male couple.
Yes.
We have Sean and Brittany, who male, female.
Mm-hmm.
They got a little different they give some different energy, but then we'll get into it later. But like they got a little different kind of energy, but I mean
they
fairly
are
straight
like
passing.
A traditional straight couple, but at the same time, they both seem very open-minded to other. They're not.
Yeah.
I don't know. They seem they're more interesting than just your standard straight couple.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
so that's what I'm getting from them. Okay, then we have Dylan and Lauren. And Dylan and Lauren are one of the couples we discussed that, Shelby had shared with me. It's like, okay, that's what I'm getting. That they kind of give like straight, we just like a third.
Yeah,
like to add a woman.
I have to give my friend Katie credit for this because she's like, they seem like not like a polyamorous couple, but a couple who swings.
Right, yes.
Or something like that. Yeah, like, which feels different. Like, it's not the same thing.
Yes, not the same thing.
Although they do,
it's in the family, but it's not, it's not relationship, right? It's like, this is a sexual thing we do together.
Exactly.
But not like, there's an emotional connection.
That is how I judged them immediately. I was like, oh, they're going to be awful. But I've been pleasantly surprised by the emotional intelligence, especially that he exhibits. I'm like, oh,
absolutely.
He's actually way better at being vulnerable and like open to things than I would have guessed. Now they're still not picking a man in this throuple.
Right.
Like,
no.
He is more emotionally intelligent than I initially gave him credit for. And I think that's what their first partner said too. Anyway, sorry, I just had to interject that in there because I was like,
that's perfect. Yes.
I judged that book by its cover, and it's better, but it's
better than it seems.
Yeah.
But it's still a little like yeah. Are y'all really poly?
Exactly.
Are you interested in that?
Do you guys just want to fuck a girl together?
Or you just want another girl to fuck? Yeah. Yeah. Like, because I mean, again, you don't need a show to do that.
Right. You could just do that. Bar. You guys are hot. You could do that.
There's plenty of
go in anywhere you want. I'm sure you could find
unicorns. One. That's all. Hey, that's what we do. Well, anyway. I was like, did I just include myself as a unicorn?
Right.
So then we have Corey and Wilder. And Corey and Wilder also,
they kind of exude,
but they give a little
some
more
queer energy.
Yeah, they got a little queer energy. Like Wilder gives me like he could, I could see him. Yeah, maybe
I could see it.
It's a possibility with me.
He gives me vibes of someone I've been in a relationship with before. A little bit, I'm like, yes, I could see you being into some different kind of shit. Good for you. They're cute together.
Like, I could watch or something, or I could get them,
Yeah, why not?
I'm open. So I was here for I'm like, okay. Then last we have Maximo and Ash. Now Maximo and Ash come in episode 5.
Yes.
So we are gonna talk about just the couples in general, some of the things that have happened. There's going to be some spoilers. So if you haven't watched at least until like episode 6, 7, I can't compartmentalize all of what happened in what episode.
Right.
I'm going to try not to say too much because I know Shelby has seen all of it.
Yes.
But she's also giving me permission to share some extra.
You can spoil some things for me and that is totally fine. That's totally fine. I will still watch the show for sure.
Yes. So we want to see how it works out.
Absolutely.
So, we did have a couple that has found some success, and or throuple. that said like, hey, we're into this and we want to take this out of here. We feel like we've gotten all we can get from this retreat. Good.
He threw the chair away at the thing. He was like, we have a girlfriend
the chair in the pool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, the girl doesn't have nowhere to stand or sit. She got to stand now.
Okay.
So I want to sit down because filming is long. You know?
I know you're out here for a long time, but it was good for dramatic.
I threw my chair in the pool. It was very good for dramatic.
One or both of them has a Leo placement. I guarantee it. Just based on the way they dress and look and act, like,
Yes. Wait. Okay, no, it was Sean. I was like, did they say he was a Leo? Sean is a Leo. We know Sean is a Leo.
Yes, that's right. Okay,
because she does mention that in the show that Sean is a Leo, so we know that.
Yes.
But yeah, Wilder given a little. They both just they have some very
quirky
Leo qualities.
Maybe some Aquarius in there too. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
So I feel like. So we're talking about Corey and Wilder. They worked through some issues that were coming up. I know Corey was having some, kind of insecurities that would come up because they had discussed that there was some boundary crossing in previous times that they've welcomed someone else into this, their relationship. So I know she had some things that need to be taken care of there. Yeah. And I feel like he was, receptive and responsible with her feelings and never felt like he was like, oh, she's bringing that shit up again or whatever.
So that is so funny to me because when they first started having those conversations or when it first came up that he had crossed a boundary of hers before, I was like, oh, she doesn't want to be here. Like, she looked very uncomfortable. Like, there were several times where he was like, yeah, I'm ready for this. I'm a very sexual person. And she was like, not so much.
She's like, I'm not so much. Yep.
Yeah. And I was reading that initially like, oh, this is not going to go well. Like, this is not going to do, like, I don't like this dynamic for them. He gaslit her into being here. But then I, again, was very pleasantly surprised. I think the partner that they picked was also very like, oh yeah, let's go at your pace. Like, I'm sorry. I'm just thought we were all here together. Like, I think the person that they picked did a really good job of working with those dynamics. And by the end, I think now, granted, it was this grand gesture of like, we have a girlfriend now. But at the same time, I don't want to just go off of that. I'm really curious to know if they're still together. But at the time, I
am too.
I was pleasantly surprised at how it all worked out for them. Again, I was
definitely like, where are they now?
Right.
Where's the reunion episode? I need it now because they left early and we need to know what happened.
Because this show just wrapped pretty recently, honestly.
And so I will be very interested to see how they made it out in the real world because that's the true test, especially in a throuple kind of relationship, which is, again, very interesting in like, culturally, like I was thinking about how would I introduce that to my family? Like, one, it's already enough, right? Like,
because
it was already enough that I was gay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you're trying to bring home multiple partners, and again, this is where I don't want to say traditional polyamory, but like the polyamory that we're used to, is, you wouldn't necessarily bring both of your partners to meet your family, right? Because you might have a primary partner that might have access to your family, but you're not just bringing everybody.
Yeah.
Or anyone.
I mean, it depends. I think it just depends on your family. Is your family open to that?
Yes.
Is it,
also,
like,
true.
Because I think this is one of those things that if I brought this to my family, they'd be really confused and weirded out. But I think eventually they'd be like, well, okay. If this,
if it makes you happy.
But then I know other people's families who would just be like, we're not acknowledging that at all. Like, this is her friend and her other friend. Kind of thing. Like,
listen, and don't bring them back over here.
Yeah, don't bring those weirdos over to my house again.
Don't be bringing multiple people over here like this. What do you think this is? No.
Yeah.
My family would not be going.
For sure.
But I wouldn't bring it to my family in the first place because I already...
Because you already know those dynamics.
We just have those boundaries at this point. We're not doing it.
Yeah, we just won't talk about it.
I'll just have my life, and it's just separate.
And you don't have to be a part of it in that way.
Nope. And that's what makes me happy. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised to see that they had, decided that they didn't need the retreat. And I'm like, again, I said to Shelby, I'm not.
You don't want to stay on vacation?
Retreat early.
Okay,
no.
if you
I want to go back to my real life. And pay some bills and shit and like be
Good.
responsibilities.
But I have to say, it probably is like they're just feeding you alcohol all the time. It's
True.
I mean, at a certain point, like I know your Taurus
like,
rising
right.
is like, I want to go home. A little bit. Like just a little bit.
Maybe, you know, depending on how long filming was and how much people get on my nerves. You know?
That's the key though.
That's the test. Are
Absolutely.
people getting on my nerves? Because if that's happening, all right. My time is up.
Yeah.
I'll be departing.
Yeah.
But you know, hey. So, okay, we have to talk about these two because this really brought a lot of emotion out of me, this couple. Ashmal and Rahman.
Oh, yes.
We must at least talk about them.
We have to acknowledge them.
You know, I was brought to much frustration by Rahman.
Yes. Understandably.
And I'm sure many people, I would assume probably many people were frustrated.
He was not ready.
Rahman was not ready. But Rahman, like Shelby was saying earlier, it seemed like maybe Rahman was the person who instigated wanting to have this experience, bring a third partner in. But Rahman, nothing about Rahman is ready for this experience. But the number one thing is Rahman does not like to communicate. Rahman likes people to read his mind and his emotions. And to see it happen over and over brought me so much frustration of why didn't they ask me what was wrong? Why didn't they ask me? You're curled up on the bed.
We're all grown-ups, okay? You got to tell people how you feel.
And you want somebody to come, babe, what's wrong? Babe, do you want to talk about it? No, if you wanted to talk about it, then you should have sat your ass up and said, hey, I want to have a conversation about this.
Yes.
Are you in a good place to have this conversation?
Yep. And I think, okay, so I don't know about you. I'm just going to speak for myself. But this is so frustrating to me because I know that this is something that I have a tendency towards doing. So I think it bothers me even more.
Pisces, right?
Yeah. I have been the person in a relationship who will just like sit there and pout and give off the signals until someone's like, hey, are you okay? And I'm like, no, actually, I'm not. Like, you for finally asking. And like, I know that that's something that I have done. But I also am really trying to work on not doing that shit anymore. And when I see it played out in this very obvious way, I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. Just, you're a grown up. You're a grown up. And it feels like
Rahman, are you a water sign? Tell us. You know. Like, you're brooding. He's just brooding all the time.
You think he's a Scorpio?
Like, are you a Scorpio?
I have to look it up after this. Okay.
We got to find out.
Yeah.
Like, Rahman, are you a Scorpio? Because, I mean, the amount of brooding. I mean, like, literal pouting. There was a scene he walked, I think maybe it was episode 6, like right after, right after Jonathan.
Oh,
Jonathan
he leaves.
We're just jumping all over the place.
Yes,
so the boyfriend they chose, or the man they chose, Jonathan, Rahman was going through all his jealousy or whatever. He was communication issues and all over the place, moody.
Yep.
And, you know, Jonathan was like, I'm cool on it.
Yeah. He even literally says, he was like, Ashmal is cool. Clearly, they had a connection.
They had a great little connection.
Yeah, which is also, I think, part of what is making Rahman so upset because this was his idea, and Ashmal is his first, like, Rahman is Ashmal's first gay partner.
Yes.
And so he's never been in a relationship with a man before, and so I think Rahman feels like he has this power over him in that way. And then he's like, oh, actually, I kind of like this guy more. Maybe not more, but like I'm having feelings for this guy. Yes.
He said that there was more of an emotional connection with Ashmal because Ashmal communicates.
Yes.
And talks about he's open. Right?
And he seems really good at
it. He said there was more of a physical connection there. Now, Rahman on his end was saying, I feel a great emotional connection to Jonathan. And so there was that mismatch, and Jonathan's like, you feel emotionally connected to me, but I feel like you are not open enough. Right.
Yeah. Like, how would I know that you have an emotional connection to me? Because you're literally just like,
you close off.
You're closed off.
Wall up.
Yep.
And like, that's not how you come into relationship with people. Like, you can't expect everyone always to be like, what's going on? What's going on? You're quiet right now. This, that, and the other. Like, no.
Yeah.
Again, we're grown.
We're grown.
No one's a child here.
We're all adults.
So we don't need to have to prod you to find out what's going on in a show that's about relationships.
Right.
And you relating with people. How are you relating with somebody?
Yeah.
And you won't open up and talk to them.
There's literally a whole ass therapist on this show that I'm sure is like encouraging you to be honest and to be open and to set your boundaries. Like, yeah.
So like, okay, so that scene. So after Jonathan leaves, the next episode, they have this challenge, which is about communication. I'm like, I know they're not going to miss that challenge because these are the two people that needed the most. So they did not miss the challenge. So they were there. But as they're walking up, so they have to go into like the rainforest or whatever. And the challenge was to build a tent together in the communication that it takes to build a tent. But also some of the parts that you normally have when you have the tent, modern tents, some of those things weren't there. So they required extra communication.
Yes. Okay.
So as they're walking onto this part of the set, right? And they're joining Scott and oh Lord, I forgot the therapist's name. Our therapist.
Yeah, the therapist.
Lovely lady. Yeah. Yes. Ramon is the first or the second person to walk onto the set, right? And so he is pouting, like visibly, fully pouting, and just, like a whole face. And you see her, it cuts to her, and she's like, oh no. She's like, oh no.
Because she's a therapist. Well, first of all, I have questions about how, as a therapist, ethically you get this job and maintain it. So I do have my questions. But if she's a therapist worth her salt at all, then she has seen him be like this the whole show. And I'm sure she too is tired of his fucking attitude.
It almost gave me myself for a minute, because that would be the same reaction I would have, like, oh no, what has happened? No. Ramon's upset again.
We're going to have to talk about this. Oh, I love it.
So it just made me laugh. Just like, Ramon, like, baby, you have to communicate. And so even after this challenge, he was like, I just think we did they did communicate a lot better, but Ramon's processing of it was saying Ashmal communicated better. Like, he did these things, and it was like, baby,
he doesn't realize that he's the problem.
It's you. You're the problem. It's not Ashma, baby.
He's been communicating this whole time. Yeah. Oh, I feel like that relationship, even if they don't get into a throuple and maintain one on the show, which you're almost done with the show, so you probably know more than I do, but that relationship is doomed. Unless he figures this shit out.
I don't see it for them. Yeah. And maybe, like, hey, once you go on a reality show and the world sees it, you're going to get a read from the world about how you behaved. And maybe something about that will, trigger him, like, oh, maybe I need to go talk to somebody about these tendencies.
Yeah,
because I don't think you're going to get the edits you think you're about to get.
Probably not. You never are on a reality show. Nobody ever gets edited the way that they want to be. Yeah.
No. So I'm like, baby, Ramon, you have got to learn, because it happened in so many scenes. And I'm like, again, I told Shelby, I didn't even start really paying attention until episode 5. And so it happened so many times once I had even started paying attention. Yeah. I'm like, no, what's going on with this man? Because
what is his problem? Looks like a little boy over there pouting at every episode. Like,
every episode, I'm like, is this one of the kids I work with at the school? Like, what's happening?
I swear.
What is happening? Use your words, baby. Use your words.
Use your words. Moral of the story is, couple to throuple, polyamory, use your words.
Use your words. That's a great way to wrap, because I know we got to take a little break here.
Yes, we got other stuff we got to talk about today, but we will come back to this when I'm done with the show.
We will come back to this conversation.
Maybe our next Shoot the Shit. Let us know. That'll give our audience, if you have not watched already, now you have time to watch.
Yes. That's your little teaser.
Yes, that's your teaser, and we'll come back to this in a couple of weeks for sure.
All right. So let's take a break here, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about a little bit of astrology, but it's about us. So,
Yes. Yeah, I can't wait.